So hi Liz, so we've done our first, which is always good to get in the can. So now we're going to do our second video where today we're going to talk a little bit about our experience, mainly I suppose with consultants. One of the things that COVID's done to a lot of people, their livelihood is selling consulting. So they sell, and particularly it might be leadership programs, whatever that might be, and that overnight has gone. So they're exploring other ways, and we've been working with a lot, and we were all excited, let's do this, let's do that. And we realised, a lot of people have some anxiety about the how.
A lot of anxiety.
So Liz, can you just sort of share what you've been working with quite a few consultants, what you've been noticing and how you've been working through that?
Yeah, okay. So the model we talk to consultants about, I'll just start about the kind of where they're trying to head to and the challenges they're meeting along the way. So the model that works beautifully for consultants is the blended approach, because most consultants are bouncing off their audience and getting their energy from their audience and often changing the content that they're delivering based on the audience that's there. So to then say, we want you to deliver online, really it's just like turning off the power source. They just are immediately petrified and don't know how to proceed. So the model that we present to them is to do a blended approach. And we spoke a bit about this in the end of the last webinar, and that is to look at the parts of the content that are kind of more lecture style content. So every person presenting to a room in a workshop will spend at least some time describing the methodology, the model, the kind of, I guess it's kind of the academic bit around what they're teaching. And then they'll send their groups off into workshops and they'll bring in real life examples. They might work off examples from their own business or case studies or so on. So it's then breaking that down into a format where they can pre-record some content and then have some live components, live being now on Zoom. And so at the end of the process, say a 4-hour workshop might look like 2 Zoom sessions, each of 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the afternoon, and then some self-paced learning in between. And so we've seen the end results and they're amazing. They're just incredible what you can produce, but people just don't know where to start. And one of the most basic things is just being filmed. And so how do you kind of capture your energy when you're just then addressing a camera in a room? So that is one of the greatest challenges. So they really feel awkward. They don't know where to start. They become quite wooden. And a lot of people, a sense of humour is a big part of a lot of the way consultants work. And you don't deliver jokes into the void. You need to get the response. And so coping with that is one of the biggest challenges, I think, to just getting started. Organising the material is a whole different thing, but just that, where is my personality and my usual mode of delivery and all that? So I think that's probably the starting point.
Yeah, and I'll even go back a step further. So I've been talking to some consultants today, and they started, their opening sentence was, I don't want to really do online learning because I don't like doing online learning. So I don't want to build it and I said to him, you're assuming online learning is a whole lot of slides that move through and people go through it. And I said, and I think what happens with that process is why you're so resisting it, is the key to your business is your presentation skills, your ability to read the room, bring it alive. And that's the soul of it. So to take it out of your head, design it into some kind of text format and then deliver it with maybe some animations, it's lost its soul. So right back at the beginning, I said to him, just assume it's going to, I think video is where it should be. I think let's talk about your online learning as being interactive video of you with your complete heart and soul into it and talking to the camera. And then the stuff that is the interactive stuff, I think facilitate it on Zoom just like you would in a room. I don't think we need to spend thousands of dollars of trying to simulate this into some kind of online experience when I don't think it needs to be.
No, and there's no problem with people receiving material before a session and coming to that session having read some background material, watched a little video of you explaining your overall processes, methodology, introduction, and perhaps having watched some video case studies, and then they're coming, having commenced the process, and then you're engaging with them. So it's about sort of reimagining the way you've done it in the past, but really not losing the heart and soul of it.
Yeah, so next week I'm about to teach a master's subject. So I've got 50 odd students around the world. So I've already sent them 3 videos on I've done a 3D video on Tour of Parliament. And then I've done a little mock trial that I've just spoken to some video and I've put my voice over the top. I've then done an introduction to the legal system. So they're getting all that before I meet them next week, because that's what we're going to be discussing. And then I've even sent them out something called Padlet. Padlet is a free tool that you can pay if you need $9 a month, if you need more than 5 a month. And Padlet is like a link that creates, it looks like what I would say if we all worked in an office, it'd be a notice board. And I've asked them all to put a little post-it note up on there. This is all before we arrive, on their name, what country they're in, and something special about them, something they'd like to share with us. And if they're allowed out, COVID, a photo of something in their, either Parliament, a government sort of building. And I had a look last night and I've got like 35. They've arrived. So that's just so exciting for me. So I'm already building this rapport and community with them. So when we arrive next week, they've done all the bulk of that stuff ready for us to start a week. And I'll keep doing that each day and be drip feeding them stuff. So I think that's great.
Yeah, and it's sort of, I love the idea that all the learners are coming much more on a level footing as well. So they've all had that same information. They've all done the same stuff before they start. So your jumping off point is then, here instead of down here. So I think that.
And they can revisit that content anytime. So, they'll come to the class and then they'll say, I didn't actually understand the jury thing, and they might ask some more questions, and they can go and watch my video again. So it's not that if you didn't get it the first time, you're out. So I think it's a great model.
One of the big things that people say at the moment is the level of disengagement on Zoom sessions. And so a couple of consultants have told me that they've been talking, and while they're talking, they're watching people drop off. And it's just so disheartening. And I mean, people have just got Zoom fatigue, and they might rock up half an hour and then they go, I'm out of here. But if the Zoom session is actually where they're all required to be engaged in breakout rooms. So the static stuff where they sit there and listen and do their emails, they can't do that because they've got to go and do that module separately. We can talk about how we build that. But once they're on Zoom, they're all actively learning, which is a very different kind of mindset to bring.
Yeah. So the one that is actually running live today that I've spent the last 3 weeks building. So for the static stuff where they go off, they've actually got to do some case studies, and then there's about 5 or 6 questions they've got to think about and come back to the Zoom with those 5 or 6 questions, what their answers. So why do you think she did this? Do you think this was, and they've all got to come and talk about it. So they're already excited to come back and say, it's like book club.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than reading a great book if you're in a book club. There's nothing worse than reading a crap book if you're in book club, because you feel like you've got to finish it. But there's nothing better than reading a good book in a book club, because you want to come and talk about it. You want to go, oh my God, can you believe she did this? That's the kind of enthusiasm you want in Zoom. You do not want to be talking at people in Zoom.
No, exactly. Yep. And why wouldn't you be on your emails clearing them while someone's lecturing to you for 2 hours? Like, you just disengage. You cannot be engaged for that time. So yeah, so it's about making that time meaningful, I think. So
yeah, absolutely. It's like why we were on House Party, because there's quizzes in there. So when we're a bit bored, we'll put a quiz up. Yeah, so there's trivia in there. So you've got to bring it up to it. So we need to be designing things in. So the mistake I think people made is they moved their entire program to Zoom and just thought we'll run as normal. And that novelty's gone. I'm actually Zoomed out of my head now. I have to have a break from Zoom every now and again because it's just too much. So that's what we've got to be thinking. Just like we would not talk to them in a lecture room for 8 hours, We would never do that. So, and if we're running a workshop in an organisation, we'd be thinking constantly how we can keep them engaged. So just think like that again.
Yeah. And I think too, that if you're a consultant, you're running a business and you want your workshop to be better than the next person's who might be your competition. If you are just doing what everyone else is doing, then you just don't have the edge. I just think for a learner to be saying, well, to get their workshop pack and they're going, oh my God, this looks amazing. So, right, I've got to watch this welcome video from the presenter. He or she would like me to view this case study video and read a couple of pages of material, and then, oh wow, Zoom at 10 o'clock on Monday, we're going to have a brief group session, and then we're going off into breakout rooms and we're going to workshop it. And I just think that would just blow me away if I saw that compared to just sitting there zoning out for 3 hours.
Yeah, it's so much more exciting. And that's what we've been working on as consultants at VidVersity. We've been going into organisations and taking teams who are at the start, and we've been going through that process of helping them create the content, build out the program and move it online. And some of these have been done in 2 weeks. Some of them take 6 weeks, but we're really digitising content in a really exciting way. So that I feel really excited about what we're doing and the future of online learning that people have resisted for so long.
Yeah, and I think the other challenge that I've encountered a lot is how to speak naturally on camera, and a lot of people get really overwhelmed by this. The dog.
Have a dog. That will automatically make you go, stop it, and automatically you're natural.
Yeah, that's right. So exactly.
It's a ploy. It's a deliberate ploy.
It's a deliberate ploy. Thanks, Chloe. So one of the ways we deal with this, and I'm going to get you to speak about this now because of the dog, I'm going to mute, but is the interview technique. Over to you, Nat.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of consultants who they're amazing speakers, and you see their feedback and everybody loves being where they're presenting, and then we say video and they turn into a robot. It's very robotic, very difficult, and they're not engaging. So what we've been doing is basically what Liz and I are doing here is we've been saying, get someone to interview you. Because as soon as you speak to someone who's a subject matter expert, if you ask them about the why is leadership important? Oh my gosh, they're off and running. They get really excited and engaged. So the interview technique has been a really quick way to build video content for people who, like us, weren't raised on a TikTok generation. We don't spend our life filming what was for breakfast. And there's nothing wrong with any of that, but there's a generation of us that have not spent our life in front of camera. And I always remember my grandma when I first got my phone and it had a video camera, and I used to video, and she'd go, I'd say, no, it's a video, not a photo. And she'd go, no, I go, you have to move, Grandma. You've got to move in front of the camera. And so it's a lesson that we've got to. Another trick that I've been using to quite a few people, I say, do you ever deliver your training sitting down? And they say, no. I say, well, film yourself standing. Why are you sitting down? If that's taken away your energy and you're just a bit more down, physically get up and use your hands and be that animated person that you are that gets that energy in the room. And the other trick that I recently filmed something that I do regularly. It's an online training program that I have done. And I think if you speak to any consultants, they'll all have this. There is this training that I have done. I have to have delivered it 15,000 times. I have said it over and over again. So a few weeks ago, I hired a videographer to film me. And he said to me, you're so upbeat. And I said, because in my head, I'm saying, I might never have to say this again. I finally might have found a way to package it up and deliver it that I don't have to. And already it's sort of got a whole lot of traction. But there's things that we can say. We've been doing it for so long as consultants. Just capture that, but think about either interviewing or that sitting down is really good. And the third one is sometimes get a videographer. If it's something you're going to sell to a lot of people or to deliver to a lot of people, take away that desire to get the technology right and give it to an expert.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we saw that with yours. It was amazing, the quality.
It took it to a whole new level.
Yeah. All right. So funny story, Nat, we're going to try and have a light moment at the end of all this.
Well, it's just such a crappy time at the moment. So I just thought, we'd try and tell a story each week. It has nothing to do with work and nothing to do with training. So I wanted to just tell you, Liz, I don't know if I've told you this. I was at Chadstone a couple of weeks ago when we were allowed out. And I went to David Jones, if any of you know that, and they were looking around and I found these really lovely shoes. So I took off my shoes. I asked them, could they go and get a size 8, which they did. And I took them off and I tried on my shoes. And I could see just over from me a very lovely, elegant looking lady who was now trying on the shoes I'd taken off. And it was such an awkward encounter to go. I went up to her to say, I think it's lovely that you like those shoes, but they're mine. She was so embarrassed, but because she was looking in the mirror going, she's walking around, and I've now taken the other shoes off and I'm having to wait, and I'm thinking, this is awkward. I've got to go up to her and say, they're mine. She was mortified. So that's just a light-hearted story at the end of what is a really tough time at the moment. So anyhow,
you could have sold them to her.
I could have sold them, but I would have had to buy shoes or go home barefoot. So I like them too. That's why I own them. So but I just thought it was, it also indicates that they look good.
That's a compliment.
I said to her that. She was really embarrassed. I said, well, it's the ultimate compliment. So there you go. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Have a lovely week. Again, This is available on our VidVersity podcast as well. So you can go to any podcast place and get it. That's the audio, and the video is a webinar that is you can have a look at any time. So thanks very much.
Okay. See you, Nat.
See ya.
Bye.